This conference will now be recorded.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and call to order the meeting of Minnesota River Valley Transit for Tuesday, May 11th, 2021. I'm looking for an approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Got a motion?
Motion to approve.
This is Steve Grams will second it.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, Todd, you want to take a roll?
Chair Sullivan,
Yes.
Councilmember Bruflat,
Aye.
Councilmember Swanberg,
Aye.
Councilmember Grams.
Aye.
Motion passes. You got everybody, or do you need me to do a roll call, Todd?
I think we're okay, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Then I would look for an approval of the minutes for March 9th, our regular meeting.
You want to take that
Emily.
with the disbursements or just one at a time?
I think we always do them separately, right, Todd?
That would be best, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Emily will so move to approve the minutes.
Motion
Second.
and a second. Any discussion? If not, Todd?
Councilmember Bruflat,
Aye.
Councilmember Swanberg,
Aye.
Councilmember Grams, Chair Sullivan.
Aye. Motion passes. Then I'd look for a motion to approve the disbursements from March 2021 to April 2021.
Motion to approve the disbursements.
You got a motion. I think, Steve, were you trying to say something?
Steve, we can't hear you. Emily will second.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, before we call for the roll, let's try Steve one more time to make sure his microphone is now working.
How's that?
Yep.
There we go, Steve. Perfect.
Okay, all right. I'm trying to get this new computer figured out.
Keep working.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can use that, blame it for the next 10 years.
Steve, did you have any discussion on the disbursements?
No, I don't, Mr. Chair.
Okay, then I will go ahead and have Todd do a roll.
Councilmember Swanberg,
Aye.
Councilmember Grams,
Aye.
Chair Sullivan,
Aye.
Councilmember Bruflat.
Aye.
All right, the motion is approved. Todd, did we get any visitors today or comments?
No, we do not, nor have I received anything via snail mail or email or voicemail or anything like that, Mr. Chair.
Perfect. We don't have any old business. We don't have any new business. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
All right, we'll go right into reports then. So Sandy, do you want to do the operations report?
Yep, as you guys, they sent out, did you guys get a copy of the numbers and the graph that Sally updated? For the writers and, no?
I didn't have all their emails, but.
Oh,
Todd
okay.
told me-
All right, I'll just talk about it. Our
Oh,
numbers.
Hold on a second, Sandy. Hold on just a
Okay.
second. I'm going to turn over the screen to Sally here
Okay,
so that she can be the presenter. And
Okay.
Mr. Chair and members, she'll be able to show you on the bottom portion of your screen the table that's assembled. And this is one that we've worked on a little bit, so we continue to tweak how it looks for you. Hopefully, Sally, you have control of the screen.
I believe so. It's coming up. Share. Okay, you should be able to see it, and then Sandy can talk to it. But first of all, I have the average weekly ridership. So
So
Yeah.
Sandy, why don't you talk about that?
okay. as you can see, our ridership had went down when COVID first started, but it is gradually coming back up. In January, we had 881 riders, February 906. March, we had 1,176 rides, which was down like 119 from 2019. And then in April, we had an average of 1,078 rides, which was down like 34 rides a week in 2019. So the rides are starting to come back up.
Fantastic. So Sandy, this encompasses all rides. This doesn't differentiate how many might be seniors or how many are regular adults or how many are preschool. This is all rides.
This is all rides, yes. I
All right.
could next time, if you want, I can break them down, but yes, this is all rides.
So Sandy, just for clarification for the board's understanding, we have continued to tease out or pull out Gustavus rides because in 2019, we would have had Gustavus rides on top of that. And so here's the next table. Thank you, guys. So
Right.
Sandy, why don't you talk about where we're at right now today with that and what we kind of think the future might look like. Certainly not over the summer because there wasn't Gus Bus over the summer, but beyond that.
Yep, we're waiting to hear. We talked a little bit, I believe, last fall with Gus Davis, and of course it was canceled due to COVID. So we plan on meeting with them later this summer and see if things will be back on track. Hopefully they will be. That's a big portion of our rides. So it'll be good to start hauling kids again.
So just to remind members, we charge them on an hourly basis for driver and bus together and dispatch separately. And so we price that at what we believe, as close as we can calculate, a break even. So their revenue or loss of revenue hasn't hurt us from an operational standpoint, nor do we make profit on it. And so hopefully it's kind of neutral to our overall operations. That's been our goal for a number of years. So again, we have a few new members, so I wanted to make sure that I explained that. And hopefully I talked about that a little bit during orientation, but we wanted to make sure that you understood that.
Sandy, I just have a
Yeah.
question. Will you go up and pick up Gustavus students if they call right now or not at all?
Yeah, we take Gus Davis students daily. We've been
Okay.
taking some to work, yeah, to the grocery store.
So
Yep.
this is more just their rides during the Monday night, Wednesday night, whatever nights they are in the
Yep,
weekends. That's what
Wednesday
you said.
nights. Yep, we did Wednesday nights 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. and then Friday and Saturday nights we do 9 o'clock to 2 o'clock. And then in the winter hours we have a third bus that comes on from 10 to 2 a.m.
Okay.
All right. Mr. Chair, members, do you have any questions for Sally or Sandy or I about this kind of documentation? Sally, would you mind going back to the overall, away from Gus Bus, but go scroll back? There you go. Thank you.
I do have to say, Todd and Sandy and Sally, I appreciate this. This actually is a really nice document. Show us where we were at a few years ago and then where we're at today. I really like that.
We'll do a little bit better. I know I promised this last time, but we'll do a little bit better. Our goal is to have this sent out as a part of the packet so that you have a little bit more chance to analyze that. So I will promise one more time that we'll get that done for your next meeting and make sure that it's in the packet for you in advance.
Any other questions, Steve?
Got a question, Sandy. Do you have problems getting drivers to work those late shifts for the Gus Bus? And for those that do drive, are they paid a different rate because it's so late in the evening, or it runs so long or late?
Yep, in the past, yes, we've had enough drivers. And then, yes, they do get a higher paid rate.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
If not, Sandy, do you have anything else for us today?
I was just gonna talk a little bit, just to say preschool will be winding down here at the end of May. So we'll be done with preschool and pretty much our school routes here in Sueur. Then that June 4th, we will go to one bus here in Sueur. Things slow down. A big majority of our rides are school and preschool rides. And to touch, just a note from last meeting, I said we were having our annual or yearly state patrol wheelchair inspections, and all buses passed.
Good
And
news.
then, oh, sorry.
No, you're okay.
Oh, and then I was just gonna touch base on the in June, or sorry, July 10th, Sueur's having a pre-giant celebration, and we may be doing rides for that here in town. Once again, we did that 2 years ago, so we're plan on doing that again. They approached us, and as of now, we plan on doing that again.
Good. Any other questions for Sandy? All right. Todd, are you taking over the rest, or?
Yeah, so Sally and I will tag team on a couple items under administrative report, but compliance manager report, we typically talk about 2 or 3 items. So let me talk about those very specifically with you. We generally like to report, or are happy to report, that we do not have any folks that have been kicked off the bus or have been denied service. So you might recall that on occasion we talk about 2 or 3 primary issues related to that. That's a little bit more compounded in today's world, but generally that occurs when people have had behavior that has caused a problem on the bus, particularly for customers first. But if they are behaving poorly relative to drivers, that could be a reason that they are not provided service, kicked off the bus, or not provided service for a certain period of time in the future. We've only had one rider in the past. Well, let me rephrase that. Since we've been on MRVT, I believe we've only had one. Prior to that, St. Peter had a couple here and there. I can't speak to Sueur, but you do have a policy and a process for how that works in a notification process. So that's well outlined, and just want you to know we don't have any significant problems right now. The one that makes it a little bit more complicated today is that under the current rules, we are still required to ensure that riders have masks. Since we receive federal funds, that's under the president's order currently. Now, I don't know when that will change. Our plan from an administrative perspective is that when that order changes, that's when we'll change. Until that time, because we rely on those federal pass-through dollars, well, I shouldn't say just because of that, but that's what holds us to ensure that we're following those guidelines. So I wanted you to be aware of that one as well. And we really haven't had any, I don't know, Sandy, maybe you can speak to that. My recollection in our discussions is that we haven't really had any significant pushback or challenges with that. Most people are super cooperative and happy for the ride.
Yep, we've had a few people that came to the bus without a mask. We tell them they have to, have a mask. They didn't have one. We had gotten a bunch through the county, had given us a bunch, so we, gave them a mask, and we had no problems. Everybody's willing to wear them, so it's been going good.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, the last item that we typically cover a little bit is just an update. As you know, we have a drug and alcohol protocol, and so we continue to move forward with that. I might need Sandy's help with this one. I don't recall. We are now, I believe, on a monthly check. During the winter months, we go to a quarterly check, but now we are on a monthly check. And there are rules from the from FTA, Federal Transportation Authority, that we have to follow related to how many people we have to check or what percentage of our employee base, et cetera. So we have no challenges there. Things seem to be going okay in that area. I will, under administration reports, though, talk about MRO, which is kind of certainly related to this. But those are the 2 that I have for compliance manager reports, other than, as I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, Wayne just can't be here today. He's in a required training.
Any questions for Todd on the compliance side? Perfect. I'll turn it back over to you, Todd.
All right, under operation application due in June, as you know, our budget and grant application are required to be ready in June. So for that meeting, Mr. Chair and members, you should expect a little bit longer. Sally will report after a little bit that we're looking good on budget. All those things are in great shape, but wanted you to know kind of the timeline for that. And since we meet every other month, we'll make all that work out in July for you, so things will work out just fine. We'll submit application pending your approval here at your next meeting. And so I think we'll be in good shape with them. I do want to mention also the second item there, change in reserve account rules. Minnesota Department of Transportation, Office of Transportation, which is the authority over us, has been talking about changes in reserve rules. And so what that amounts to essentially, Mr. Chair members, is they are thinking about rules relative to how much money we can have on hand at any given time. So they have not implemented anything yet, but want you to be aware of that. And Sally might be able to speak to this just a little bit, and I'll give her some time to do that. But we feel that we are in an appropriate position and have the amount of reserves necessary, especially since we have a cycle in which we receive repayment from DOT, so we expend dollars. Sometimes we get money a little bit in advance, but we expend some resources. And just like any other small business, I shouldn't say too small, you know, you're a $900,000 business, give or take a little bit every year, that you need some cash flow for your operations to occur. And so just be aware of that, and we'll see what they come up with. But right now it's something that's under consideration. If it gets to a point where they're passing rules that we have concerns about, that's certainly something Mr. Chair and members will talk to you about and ask for some guidance as to how we might correspond with Office of Transportation and tell them, you know, that's not so cool. We'd prefer to see a different type of number than what you have currently. So again, want you to be aware of that.
Perfect.
Sally, do you have any thoughts about reserves and where we are relative to our needs from a cash flow perspective?
We're sitting really, really strong. Right now, the federal and state grants have come through, to Todd's point, quicker than what we've expended. And they've over allocated to us based on what their projections were. So we're gonna owe money back to them of about $320,000. So for right now, we'll sit on the money till they ask for it back, and then we'll give it back. But then we'll still have about $176,000 in reserves. So we're doing really well right now with our cash flow. So no problems there, and they're still reimbursing us through the end of the year at 100% of our expenses. So we won't be charging fares until January of 2022 at this point.
As we do an analysis and come back to you, Mr. Chair and members, related to fares, as we get to that discussion later in the fall, certainly that reserve number will have an impact on, well, I shouldn't say certainly, it is certainly at the pleasure of the board, but certainly that reserve may have an impact on how you choose to ramp up rates as we go from free to something into the future. Again, keeping in mind the goals that you set previously related to uniformity between the two communities, and making that a little bit tighter than it started out with a few years ago when we joined.
Also, there is talk with MnDOT or with Melinda, I don't know, I can't remember what her replacement was, but possibly going from an 80-20 split to an 85-15 too. So that will also impact where we're at on fares and what we need to collect to cover our 15%.
Thanks for mentioning that, Sally. Just as a point of clarification on that, Melinda was going to kind of be a champion for us in that. And right now, we are not looked at as a rural transit system. And so the basis for that related to the rules is that we don't provide transportation outside of a city limit, is one of the things that really drives that. But the rules aren't super clear about that. And so there's maybe some leeway for us, and we'd love to get to that 85-15 split. So we'll see what happens. It's important to note that Melinda is actually leaving that. She's been moved to a different position. And I don't know, Sandy might know, but I haven't heard if there's a replacement for her yet, or she's still acting in the same role. Have you heard anything, Sandy?
No, I don't, we haven't heard anything yet. So she's doing her new job and still being our project manager.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks, Sandy. So we'll let you know, and certainly that person, in this instance, she would have been invited to these meetings, but we always invite that person to our meetings so that they can have a feel for what we've got going on. Mr. Chair, I have one last one that's listed and one other one that I should have listed that's a little bit of a newer development, but let me talk about MRO. We are reviewing changing our MRO. So MRO are the folks who actually process our drug and alcohol testing. And so we've had a few challenges really related to not the testing itself, which has traditionally happened at Rivers Edge Hospital, but it is the folks that process that and give us the sample lists. So as an example, on a monthly basis, we receive a list generally at the beginning of the month, or when we're quarterly at the beginning of the quarter that lists off all the folks that are in safety sensitive functions. So that's all drivers. It also includes Sandy and Wayne because they drive on occasion. It doesn't include people like me because I don't drive and because I wouldn't be safe no matter how many times they tested behind a bus wheel. But that being said, they are supposed to send us a list at the beginning of each month that indicates how many and who is supposed to be tested. And they've struggled with those kind of regimented activities on a regular basis. In addition, we've had a couple of struggles in that still need to be worked out with Rivers Edge Hospital, where we are required under the rules to do testing over the days and hours of operation. So as an example, if Sally was a driver and she typically worked Gus Bus on a Saturday night, we would be required not to test her at Monday morning at 10. We're required to test people either before, during, or after, or immediately after their shift. And so that means testing has to occur at those really unusual times, right? Maybe 1 in the morning or 2 in the morning. And so because the activity at Rivers Edge Hospital has continued to grow, their lab has said, you know, come on, you can't really do that to us. We might have a driver sitting here waiting for a half an hour before we can do that test. That's a struggle because typically, especially in those off hours, it can mean that that bus is offline for anywhere up to a half an hour during a very busy time. And so trying to compensate for that or appropriately backfill that can be a challenge. So we've been looking at potential MRO change or potential testing change, or the third option is to have a couple different testing groups. If we can't get into Rivers Edge because of some reason, can we go someplace else or have them come to us to take the sample? And so we're still investigating that, but wanted you to know that we're actively thinking about that. And of course, if there are ways for us to save money, we're investigating that part of it as well. So any other questions about, or any questions about MRO or what the process is or what that looks like?
Does anybody have
Lastly
any?
on that, okay, sorry, Mr. Chair.
Oh, go ahead. It doesn't look like there's any questions.
I was going to say, so if you do have additional questions about that, please let me know. That's not necessarily something that the board needs to take action on if we change or modify in some way, but want you to be aware of that. And if we do make a change, certainly we will make you aware of that at that upcoming meeting so that you know what's going on. Safety, I know, is one of the important issues that the board has supervision over, and this is certainly a safety thing that we want you to be aware of, fully aware of. Mr. Chair, the last item that I have that is not listed on there, and I apologize for that, is I have started a very preliminary discussion with the city administrator in the city of Sueur about the office that you can kind of see behind Sandy and potentially leasing just a teeny bit of additional space for us. One of the challenges that we see as we continue to move forward is that, and I don't know if any of you have been at the location where Sandy is, but if she turned her camera, you would see that she's in the same room with our dispatcher. And at times, that causes challenges depending on how busy we are and trying to serve everyone's needs and whether Sandy's on a meeting or not on a meeting. And so I've had a preliminary reach out to Jasper on that issue. Certainly if there's a lease modification, that's something that has to come before the board, but just wanted you to be aware that we'd look at that. That other office is what, 10 by 10, Sandy, or something like that. It's not like great and overlooking a lake or anything like that.
That's for sure. And there's no windows.
Yeah, so it's just an investigation here to try and ease some of the struggles that we have, especially now, and maybe they'll subside a little bit as we leave the COVID emergency, hopefully in the near future. But wanted to be aware that I've made that overture to Jasper, and certainly anything will come back to you, and you'll have to approve any lease modification that occurs. Just for some of you that are new, MRVT has leases with both Sueur and the city of St. Peter. That's for the office space and garage space that we occupy in Sueur's building in the city of St. Peter's building.
Andy, can you show your area again? I just wanted to see it one more time.
Yep. Hold on a sec here. All right, Jody's desk. There's a driver's desk. And then my desk.
All right, thank you. I talk to the dispatch every week. I just have never had a chance to see. The other thing, while I have the microphone, we as a board and we as a system are so fortunate to have the dispatch folks, Jody in particular, and Annette, for the fine work that they do. And I guess I never came to realize how essential their roles were until last week or so when Jody was gone. It was just pure chaos a couple of times. Most of the time it was pure chaos.
You're killing me, Grams.
I'm serious. It was, and it's only because of I can't think of his name right now. The poor guy was just overwhelmed, and I'm not talking behind him. He told me that. We really are fortunate. All the drivers that we have are just jewels. All of them are. So.
Well, I will
really
definitely pass that on, Steve.
Okay, thank you.
Sandy works really hard to make sure that we have backups and some cross training, but we really rely on a lot of people. And when a few of them are gone for whatever reason at the same time, it's a challenge at times, for sure. And as you saw with the rider numbers, you're a rocking system. There's stuff going on. There's people being moved. So.
I agree 100% with what Steve just said, but I am kind of concerned that maybe he's trying to earn brownie points because he's that one that got kicked off. All right, any further questions or conversations about this stuff?
Ted, Mr. Chair, if I could speak. Just FYI, we are in the middle of the audit. Both the City of St. Peter and MRVT are being audited as we speak. The auditors are in. So the July meeting, we will probably have an audit report for MRVT for the 2020 year.
Perfect. All right. Any other?
Mr. Chair, that's, I think, all we have.
Perfect. I'd look for a motion to adjourn then.
So moved, Mr. Chair. This is Steve Grams.
I got a motion, just looking for a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? If not.
When's the next meeting?
Oh,
July.
is it the first Wednesday in July, Todd? Is that right?
It's typically the second.
Second Wednesday, yeah, my bad.
It's July 13th.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Barb.
Perfect. All righty, all in favor of adjourning, say aye.
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 All right, everybody, have a good day. Thank you.
Thanks a
you,
lot,
Mr.
everyone.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Bye.